Hello everyone, welcome back. We're doing a 2 days after shooting analysis. So this was my second time shooting 1,000 yards. So not I've shot like 800 yards before, but it's my second time like specifically going there with the intention of shooting 1,000 yards. And what the thing that like stands out most in my mind is the magnification. What magnification was most useful for getting hits at 1,000 yards. So I was using this Palmetto AR-10. This is the PA-10 Gen 3, and the scope is 5 to 25. Okay, the first time I shot 1,000 yards, I don't remember what magnification I was in, but this time I do. Okay, and it wasn't 25; it was actually 10 magnification. Okay, so why did I dial back to 10 magnification? Um, I mean, there's no question that I could see the target better at 25 magnification. Okay, it was a bright day. There was no, there was it was, it was a bright day, windy, but bright. So yeah, at 25, I could see the target way better. But the problem is that in 25 magnification, I couldn't spot the impacts in the dirt. Okay, for the wind adjustments. Okay, because it was a windy day. I had a strong wind coming in, and it was like sometimes pushing left, sometimes pushing right. So what I needed to do is spot the impacts on my mill grid, and then use that as my new holding point. Okay, and those impacts were outside of my field of view when I was in 25 magnification. And it wasn't just a field of view, because you also have to factor in the recoil. Okay, because here's the thing: when I'm in, I mean, I had no trouble controlling the recoil of this AR-10, even without a muzzle brake. But when I'm, let's say, in 10 magnification, and that recoil happens, I mean, I don't come off target. Okay, when I'm in 25 magnification, right? Because in 25 power you got a super tight eye box. That recoil, regardless how well you can control it, is going to throw you out of the scope. Okay, you're going to see shadow. You're not going to see the impact. So what I found is that because I tried going back to 20, and still the scope was, the rifle was recoiling enough so that I lost on the recoil. I lost the view of the target. Okay, but when I came back to 10 magnification, the eye box opened up enough, so even with that same recoil, I could basically stay on the target throughout the whole shot through the recoil, and I could spot the impact, and then I could make the correction. Okay, so that's interesting. So as far as how much magnification do you need to hit 1,000 yards, I mean, right now I would say 10 magnification, which So here's the thing, like here I got like a 1 to 10 first focal plane is a GLX scope. If I plan to, this is a 20-inch AR-10. In the future, I'm going to probably build out a 16-inch AR-10. I'm not putting a 5 to 25 scope on that. I'm going to probably put this 1 to 10 because that 1 to 10 is will get the job done. You'll be able to spot your impacts and stay on target through the recoil. Yeah, there's other things that you could do. Maybe put a muzzle brake that might get you be able to go up a little bit in magnification. I don't like the noise that muzzle brakes make. Okay, it's just a little too annoying for me. Not that I can't shoot, I just don't enjoy shooting as much. So I prefer shooting just a regular bird cage. It's more enjoyable for me. So it makes sense to me to just get scopes that go up to 10 magnification. Now, I mean, there's no question that I can see more with the 25. So if I were doing observation, yeah, it's nice to go up to 25 and you can do observation and you can see, which is the reason why it kind of makes sense to have this big heavy scope, 2.5 pounds, right, with the mount on top of this 20-inch AR-10, because this is basically a dedicated garrison gun. Okay, this gun is like stationary. This is not something you're going to be running around with. But I think if you're going to be moving to position, Yeah, this scope here is a much better choice. This 1 to 10, right? This GLX 1 to 10. I mean, are you going to wish at times that you had more magnification? Yes, you will. But that extra magnification really comes at extra weight, okay? Because one thing, if you have a scope that goes higher up in magnification, you're kind of committed to having a red dot on it as well. So now you got the red dot and the red dot mount. So that also adds extra weight and more complexity. With this scope here, this 1 to 10, I mean, I don't need the red dot because I can zoom down to 1 power, come up. I lost the paper. Hold on for a second. I'm gonna go get that paper. We wouldn't need it. Okay, so yeah, so like in hindsight, yeah, I mean, being able to go all the way up to 25 power, nice, but being able, 10 power is all you need to be able to get out to 1,000 yards, spot your impacts, and be able to make quick adjustments and get on target. So next time I build up an AR-10, that's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, and I'm going to be using a 16-inch barrel. And I actually did a separate video with because I ran this barrel through, I shot this through a chronograph, and I shot a 16-inch through a chronograph to see what the velocity difference is, and I put that into a bullet a BDC calculator. And what I found is that it's not a whole lot of difference, because at 1,000 yards, shooting my 147 grain Freedom munitions through the 20-inch, I get like something like 300 and I think it was like something like 345 foot-pounds of energy, right? So basically, at 1,000 yards, the 308 is like a 9mm, right, at around 345. And then when I, with the velocity on through the 16-inch barrel, when I ran that through the ballistic calculator, I mean the energy at 1,000 yards, I think it was dropping down to something like 325 or something. So it was really like a small difference. So it's basically at 1,000 yards, shooting the 20-inch barrel versus the 16-inch barrel. It's kind of like the difference that you're gonna get out of shooting, let's say, a Glock 17 versus a Glock 19 with a slightly shorter barrel. Okay, so yeah. I mean, I didn't know this information until like it's one of those things I had to compile myself. I don't think that there's anybody out there that has. I mean, there's probably bits and pieces here and there, but I haven't seen everything like presented, like kind of lumped together in the way that is digestible to me. Okay, so having done my own shooting, running this through a chronograph, that's what I think the ideal AR-10 is. 16-inch barrel with a 1 to 10 first focal plane scope on it. The guns are going to be lighter, more maneuverable. You can move around with it, and you're not giving up that much in energy downrange. As far as like distance, basically the bullet out of the 16-inch barrel is going to go subsonic about 50 yards sooner in the 16-inch barrel versus the 20-inch barrel. So again, you're losing very much, very little. I'm sorry, very little, I think. So that's. But anyway, this is a great gun. I mean, you gotta start somewhere, okay? And Palmetto is a great place to start because here's the thing. This rifle was $700, right? And this scope is an SLX scope, so that was $500. So, I didn't spend a whole lot of money, right? It didn't make sense to, I didn't spend a whole lot of money to figure out that, hey, I would be better off with a lighter, shorter AR-10 versus and also a lighter, less magnification scope, okay? Because now the next time I go into this, okay, now I can go in there with a bigger budget because now I kind of know what I'm looking for. Because this is my first AR-10, and this is the first scope with this type of magnification that I've ever worked with. Okay, so a lot of interesting information that I've been discovering going through this process. So this is the 1,000 yards I was shooting. So So basically the hits are 1, 2, 3, 4 hits with a circle. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So that's these are that was 4 out of 5 hits. Okay. So one of the hits went off target somewhere. Again, I wasn't using match grade ammunition. I was using Freedom munitions. And even when I shoot at 100 yards, sometimes when the bullets will open up a little bit. So getting 4 out of 5 at 1,000 yards was, for this ammunition, I think is really good. This group here is 30 inches. So that's, it's nice when you're at 1,000 yards, you just divide by 10. So that's about 3 MOA, 4 out of 5 shots. So that's, you know, I mean, I think that's a good place to be starting off with shooting 1,000 yards. Now, the first time I did this, I shot 22 inches, and that was 9 out of 10. But I think the wind conditions were maybe a little bit more favorable, because this time I had like a really strong wind coming straight into me, sometimes pushing left, sometimes pushing right. You know, you gotta spot the impacts, because before I started this group, I threw some bullets on the target and I saw where the impacts were. So I saw that they were going, let's say, I don't remember whether they were going right or left on the dirt. And then basically you just take that dot and then you transition to the target. Okay? And the holdover at 1,000 yards using a 50-yard zero on a 20 MOA mount was 11.5 mils on the dial. Okay? Now the other interesting thing I was also doing today with regards to scope, I basically put this eye chart out there. Okay, this was at 200 yards, and I looked through it with an SLX scope, right? The cheaper primary arms SLX scope, which they sell for about $300. This GLX scope, this one's like an $800 scope. And interesting enough, at 200 yards, right, I could see the A very clearly, B and C with both of these scopes, right? With the SLX, yeah, with the SLX and the GLX. All right. I could not see the D, and I could not see the E. Now, when I looked at it through the 25 power scope, I could see the D and the E, all right, in the 25 power, but I could not see the F. I mean, I could kind of sort of as a little line over here. So the benefit of the 25 power is basically I went from this C here to this E here, okay, at 200 yards. So the 1 to 10 and 1 to 8 got me up to the C. Couldn't see the D very well. I could see it with the 25 power, D and E, but then I couldn't see the F. So that's how much more you're going to see with this big bulky scope. So again, my thoughts at this point are that the 1 to 10 is kind of like your ideal scope for shooting 1,000 yards under a combat type of situation. Let me get that paper before it blows away. So let me also say this, that the first because I had shot 800 yards with 5.56. This is before this is prior to ever trying 1,000 yards. So with the 5.56, right, when I was shooting it, and I was able to get on target, I think it was something like, I don't remember. I mean, I got hits at 800 yards with 5.56. But the problem I had with the 5.56 is that the bullets, right, at 800 yards, it's really, because they're so light and they've lost so much energy, they're basically landing like 22s. It's hard to see the impacts in the dirt and make your wind corrections. Okay, so that was the 5.56 at 800 yards. So my thinking was that, because at the time I was using a 10 magnification scope, right? So my thinking was, hey, all I need, if I had more magnification, I would be able to see those impacts at the 800 yards with the 5.56. Well, I did try that, right? I put this scope on a 5.56 AR. took that to 800 yards, and yeah, I still couldn't spot the impacts. I mean, I did occasionally see the impacts, but with the 5.56, they were just so light. I just wasn't like, I had to put lots of bullets before I could like see like impacts consistently in one area and say, okay, I know what my wind is, I know where my holdover is. With the 308, okay, I can be in less magnification, I can be in 10 power, and I can still pick up the impacts and make corrections. So I mean, it shouldn't be too surprising. I mean, I'm probably not the first to say this, but yeah, I mean, 5.56 will get to 800 yards. If you're using 77 grains, you will hit your target. I have a video where I'm doing it. But the problem is that you gotta put lots of bullets out there so that you can like be sure that you see the impact and have confidence to now transition onto your target. You know, because basically what I did is I had two magazines. Right, I had one magazine that was just like I put into the gun, shoot that until I spot my impacts. Once I know what my holdover is, right, I would take the magazine out, put in another magazine that had 9 rounds. So now I had 1 in the chamber plus 9 in the mag, and now I would transition to the paper target, and I would shoot all 10 rounds as quickly as I could and still stay on target before the wind had a chance to change too much. So that was shooting 800 yards with the 5.56. So yeah, shooting with the 308, much easier because yeah, you know, forget about what it's going to do to the target. You can see the impacts. Now, obviously, you have to be in an area that has been actually, like, these ranges have been shot up so that there's not like grass growing. And if you're shooting into grass, you're not going to spot the impacts, right? It has to be an area with a dirt background so that when the bullet hits the ground, it raises up some dirt, like a little small dust cloud, and you'll know where the impact. If you're shooting into grass, you're not going to spot the impacts. You know, it's like you know, even with the 308, that's iffy. It depends on if it's been raining, how hard the ground is, you know. So, you know, that's the challenge with shooting distance, right? You know, with a lot of unknowns like the wind and, you know, wind doing weird things. If you can't spot the impacts, you can't make the adjustments. Okay. Now, usually, if you're working with a spotter, a lot of times the spotter is going to have a scope, you know, because he's specifically looking for impacts. He's not worried about, you know, recoil and stuff like that. He's just looking for impact, so it does make it easier. If you're shooting by yourself, you know, now you're doing all these other things like, you know, worrying about like your positioning, you know, your trigger control, your follow through, right, trying to stay on target, and then on top of all that, you know, your trigger squeeze, and then on top of all that, trying to spot your impact so that you can make a quick adjustment. So, you know, the workload really adds up very quickly. Okay, so drop some comments below. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you all soon.